Let me tell you about a client of mine. We'll call him Lenny. Lenny is probably one of the smartest people you could ever meet.
I mean, truly brilliant. He has degrees from both Harvard and MIT. He works at a top-tier Wall Street bank, building complex financial models that move hundreds of millions of dollars around the globe every single day. His mind is a machine, capable of grasping intricate systems that would make most of our heads spin. One day, he came to me with a problem. He'd met a girl he really liked, and he wanted to send her a text message. Just a simple text, asking her to get coffee. But he couldn't do it. He was paralyzed. For 3 days, he was trapped in his own head. He was running game theory simulations on her potential responses. He was analyzing the evolutionary biology of courtship rituals. He was having philosophical debates with himself about authenticity versus strategy.
He showed me pages of notes, flowcharts, decision trees for a single text message. As a coach, when he laid all this out, my honest-to-God first thought wasn't empathy. It was a single, visceral reaction. What the fuck is wrong with him? That question, that flash of judgment, is what started me on the journey that led to this very conversation. Because the answer was far more profound than I ever expected. We're all raised on a simple premise. Being smart is good. It's the ultimate advantage. Study after study shows that intelligence, as measured by things like IQ, correlates with real-world success more than almost any other single trait we can measure. It predicts income, health, even longevity. But I am here to argue that this is only half the story. I'm here to argue that there are specific, crucial situations in modern life where your intelligence can dramatically backfire, where it can hurt you more than it helps, where being smart is, in fact, a trap. Understanding my client Lenny, the genius who couldn't text, was the moment I began to truly grasp this truth. To see why this trap exists, we have to pull back. We have to understand a hidden psychological shift in our world that has set the stage for this very specific kind of modern misery. Let's travel back in time. The year is 1431. You're watching the trial of Joan of Arc. You're a peasant in the crowd. Your life is hard. You work the same land your great-grandfather worked, and you know your great-grandson will work it too. Your social position is not a reflection of your ambition or your talent. It's fixed. It was decided by God and by birth. And while this sounds oppressive, it came with a strange and profound kind of psychological comfort. Being a peasant wasn't a personal failure, it was simply your fate. There was a quiet relief in that lack of control. Now, fast forward about 400 years. A man named Napoleon Bonaparte storms onto the world stage. Napoleon was not born into greatness. He came from a humble background, but he possessed immense talent and ambition. And he introduced a radical, world-changing principle. Careers open to talent. Meritocracy. For the first time, your destiny was not determined by your bloodline, but by your competence, your drive, your intelligence. This was an incredibly empowering idea. It's the foundation of our modern world. But it came with a dark side, a hidden cost. The philosopher Alain de Botton gave it a name: status anxiety. Because if you believe you can achieve anything, if you believe your station in life is in your own hands, then the reverse must also be true. Failure is no longer bad luck. It's not God's will. It becomes a damning verdict on you as a person. It's a character flaw. To understand this trade-off, picture the medieval world as a massive, ancient stone staircase. The steps are fixed, unmoving, worn smooth by generations. You are born on a certain step, and you will likely die on that same step. You can see the people above you and below you,
But there's no frantic climbing. There is a certainty to it. Now, picture Napoleon's world, our world. It's not a staircase, it's a massive, chaotic, indoor climbing wall. There are thousands of people scrambling all at once. The holds are slippery. Some people are rocketing upwards, while others are losing their grip and falling. And you are constantly aware of the dizzying height, the risk of a fall, and the unnerving gaze of everyone else watching and judging your every move. This is the constant background hum of status anxiety. And this anxiety is so powerful, it has led to what economists call the Easterlin paradox. The wealthiest, most successful, most meritocratic societies on Earth, places where you have the most opportunity, also have the highest rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide. We have more, but we feel worse. This idea that your failures are now your own fault is a heavy burden. Have you ever felt this status anxiety in your own career or life? Share your story in the comments. And this status anxiety, this is the curse of the gifted. This was Lenny's first trap. Because he was a man who had succeeded brilliantly at every intellectual challenge he'd ever faced, the simple, mundane prospect of a girl saying no felt cataclysmic. It wasn't just a rejection. In the meritocratic world he dominated, it would feel like a personal failing, a data point suggesting he wasn't, in fact, a winner in every domain. So what did his brilliant mind do to protect him from that potential pain? He bullshitted. And this is the second, more insidious trap for the intelligent person. The smarter you are, the better you are at creating sophisticated, compelling, and utterly false arguments to protect your own ego. History gives us a perfect, tragic example: Benedict Arnold. In the early days of the American Revolution, Arnold was a hero. He was brilliant, courageous, one of Washington's best generals. But he was also arrogant and felt he was consistently underappreciated. He was passed over for promotions he felt he deserved. His ego was wounded. Eventually, he made the decision to betray his country. But how does a man like that, a man of supposed principle, justify becoming America's most famous traitor? He wrote public letters filled with incredibly convincing arguments. The war was bankrupting the colonies. It was causing the deaths of innocent civilians. The Continental Congress was corrupt and incompetent. And the thing is, all of these points were, to some degree, true. He wasn't lying about the facts. He was a brilliant man, a master rationalizer, a bullshit artist. He used his intellect not to find the truth, but to construct a version of reality that made his treason feel righteous. He was a genius at self-deception. This is the core insight. The smarter you are, the better you are at rationalizing anything. Your brain is a world-class lawyer that can argue any side of any case, as long as the client is your own emotional comfort. You can make the immoral sound moral. You can make the irrational sound rational. You can build a fortress of logic to avoid a simple, uncomfortable feeling. This was Lenny's real problem. It wasn't that he couldn't figure out what text to send. It was that his mind, terrified of the tiny emotional risk of rejection, had deployed its full, terrifying power to justify inaction. His brain could ninjutsu its way into believing whatever it wanted to believe, as long as it kept him safe from discomfort. But this rabbit hole goes even deeper. The self-deception can become so complete that it evolves into a third and perhaps most tragic trap. Let me introduce you to a man named Chris Langan. In the 1990s, he was dubbed the smartest man in America. His IQ was estimated to be somewhere between 190 and 210, a mind so rare it appears only once in hundreds of millions of people. He was reportedly solving advanced physics problems in his head as a teenager. He was a true, certified genius. With that kind of intellectual firepower, you would expect a Nobel Prize, a tech empire, a life spent pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. But that's not what happened. His reality? For much of his life, Chris Langan worked as a bouncer in a bar on Long Island to pay the bills, while writing an incomprehensible book on his own theory of reality that almost no one could understand. What happened here? The story is a cascade of small but telling failures. He went to college but clashed with his professors. He felt they weren't smart enough to teach him. He lost his scholarship over a bureaucratic mix-up his mother failed to handle, but he never thought to simply walk into the administration office and fix it himself. He dropped out. Instead of reassessing his own blind spots, his lack of social awareness, his inability to navigate basic systems, his emotional immaturity, he doubled down on the one thing he knew. He was smarter than everyone else. He fell headfirst into what I call the IQ trap. The toxic belief that if you possess superior intelligence, then any failure, any friction, any problem you encounter must be the fault of the world around you. It's the arrogance of believing your primary tool is the only one that matters. Instead of asking the humble question, what am I not seeing here? What skill am I missing? Langan's internal monologue became, why is everybody else so stupid? His tragedy wasn't a lack of opportunity, it wasn't a lack of brain power, it was a profound, catastrophic lack of humility. He had fused his entire identity, his entire self-worth to a single metric, being the smartest person in the room. And when life, as it always does, required something else, social grace, emotional resilience, practical savvy, he was completely, utterly unprepared. His genius became his cage. Langan's story is the ultimate intellectual tragedy. But the core problem here, the danger of a singular identity, goes even deeper than intelligence. It reminds me of a story I heard at a Tony Robbins seminar years ago that has always stuck with me. A man stood up in the audience and with a shaky voice admitted that he was suicidal. Tony asked him why. The man explained that his entire life, his entire identity, was built around being the guy who made money. He was rich. That was who he was. It was how his family saw him, how his friends saw him, how he saw himself. But then, through a series of bad deals, he lost it all. The money was gone, and with it, his entire sense of self evaporated. He had nothing left. He told the crowd that he genuinely believed his children would be better off with the payout from his life insurance policy than they would be with him as a living, breathing father. Think about that. This wasn't just depression or financial stress, it was a total and complete identity collapse. He had put all of his chips on one square. He had no backup roles. He wasn't a husband, a father, a hobbyist, a volunteer, a friend. He was only the rich guy. And when that role was taken away by forces partly outside his control, his reason for being ceased to exist. This is the ultimate danger of all the traps we've discussed today. Whether your identity is the rich guy or the star athlete, or in the case of Lenny and Langan, the smart guy. When your sense of self is that brittle, that concentrated, you are living on a knife's edge. So, what is the way out? The solution isn't to be less smart, it's to become more whole.
The investor and philosopher Naval Ravikant once said, "The only real test of intelligence is whether you get what you want out of life." By that definition, Chris Langan, for all his IQ points, was not truly intelligent. Because getting what you want out of life requires more than just raw intellect. It requires social acuity. It requires emotional resilience. It requires the humility to know what you don't know.
The answer is found in the work of David Epstein in his brilliant book, Range. Epstein shows, through overwhelming evidence, that in complex, uncertain, and rapidly changing environments, generalists consistently outperform specialists. People who think across different disciplines, who have a wide range of interests and skills, are more creative, more adaptive, and ultimately more successful. Well, what is life if not a complex, uncertain, and rapidly changing environment? What is a relationship? What is a career? Being a specialist in being smart is not enough. The actionable path forward is this: diversify your identity. Think of your identity like an investment portfolio. If you put 100% of your money into one single volatile stock, you might see spectacular gains, but you are also one bad news cycle away from total ruin. The wise investor builds a diversified portfolio. The wise human does the same with their sense of self. The real question to ask yourself is this: are you using logic because it's the most effective tool for the situation, or because it's the only tool you feel safe and comfortable using? You don't build a friendship with a spreadsheet. You don't navigate a family crisis with a formal proof. You build resilience by becoming more than one thing. So start small. Pick up a hobby you know you'll be terrible at and learn to enjoy the process of being a beginner. Learn 3 chords on a guitar and be joyfully clumsy at it. Join a local hiking group. Spend a Saturday volunteering at an animal shelter. Consciously start defining yourself by roles other than your job title or your primary skill. You are not just a software engineer. You are also a person learning to cook, a loyal friend, a decent son, someone who shows up. This isn't a chore. It is a profound act of building psychological armor. Stop trying to be the smartest person in the room. Start trying to be the most adaptive one. Intelligence is a gift, but range is what makes you whole. If this conversation sparked something in you, let me know by hitting the like button. And if you want to continue exploring these deeper questions about how to live a more authentic life, make sure to subscribe. It's the best way to ensure we have our next conversation.